What's cappin' my coronavirus cool guys? It's no one other than your local dude, Andre Nigashimasen. In this tier list, I'll be discussing the subcategory called supports. They're not actually a class of ships, they just kind of have similar skills that assist and help your other ships during battle. Now, being the third video of the series, I'll be jumping in straight away. If you're new to the channel or you just want a reminder of how the tier list works, check out my first video on battleships. It'll tell you how to read this tier list and so much more. So, without further ado, let's go and begin. Starting off in tier 0, we have Ryuuhou. She's got an amazing design and she's my personal favorite because God bless thighs. So she is the best single target healer in the game and she is a aircraft carrier. So when she launches an airstrike, one of her skills lets her heal a single target for a percentage of Ryuuhou's HP. And since she is a carrier, that means that she has a very nice HP pool, meaning that that one ship that's going to be healed will be healed by a lot. To put this in perspective, she can heal up a destroyer's health basically all the way back to full in just one skill duration. And along with that, since she is super rare, she has very decent stats for a healer ship and can do pretty good damage. She also has this extra skill that decreases vanguard damage taken from submarines, while also boosting the damage of her own carrier airstrikes when a submarine sinks a ship. It's not really that big of a deal, but it is a nice added bonus. So, moving on, we've got Akashi, everybody's favorite gem-loving cat girl store owner. And she is one of the 2 repair ships currently in the game. And for the unaware, a repair ship is a special type of category of ships that has no main gun or secondary gun, and they're in the back line. They only have anti-air guns, but they have a couple extra perks to them. They always heal, and whenever you sort high, they give emergency repair packs, which you can use them to go and recover 10% of your HP. You know those things that you get sometimes when you go and encounter one of those question mark cloud things? Yeah, those things. So anyway, you can go and start her quest to go and get her by tapping her in the shop. Literally just keep tapping her for at least 40 times, and then eventually you get a notification saying that your quest has started or something like that. So anyway, moving on to actual review of her ship. She has a very cool skill that heals all of the ships by a portion of her HP, meaning that she will be able to heal everybody in the fleet for a percentage of her HP. Along with that, she has this really cool reload skill that increases the reload of the Vanguard by a 15%ish or so. It's a nice skill to have so that you can shoot faster. Overall, she's a very good healer ship. And moving on, we've got Unicorn, who's also a healer ship. As you can see in Tier 0, the best ships are usually healers in the support category, but there are different people that I will be covering soon. Anyway, back to Unicorn. She is a cute British lolly carrier, and she heals the Vanguard for a percentage of their health when she launches an airstrike. Just like Ryuuhou, she has some very good stats that can dish out some nice damage, and the best part about her is that Unicorn is always widely available for you. You can purchase her in the metal shop sometimes. I know that on my server, Lexington, she was just there, and she actually might be still there for the next 24 hours or so. And you can get her as a rare drop on 4-4 and 5-4. She has the same reload buff to the Vanguards as Akashi, and she is always a very good ship to have, and she will always be useful. I recommend you at least get one copy of her. She is going to be very nice in your fleet, and she will definitely make a positive contribution. Moving on to Vestal in Tier 0, she was Enterprise's personal repair ship during World War II. She heals for a very large amount, which is actually 20% of their health, once per battle, whenever a ship falls under 20% of their HP. And if it's Enterprise, she heals for 50% more, but you don't really need them together. They don't really have that much synergy. They're both really good on their own, Enterprise and Vestal. So she also has the same thing as Akashi, being a repair ship. They are the 2 repair ships of the game. You get 3 extra emergency repairs. There's no main gun, no secondary gun, and only AA guns. Now, finally, in the last part of Tier 0, we have Helena. She is a light cruiser, and she has an extremely useful special skill that increases damage taken by all enemies on the screen by 40 whole percent. That is a massive debuff, and you can definitely shred people on the screen with her skill. Now, it activates every 20 seconds. Well, there's a chance for it to activate every 20 seconds, and she will always be super useful due to her well-rounded stats and her very cool skill. She's also an amazing ship, and she's very easy to obtain. You can get her from the shop, and you can also get her from 5-1 or 6-1. Moving on to Tier 1, we're starting it off with Illustrious. She is a aircraft carrier, and she is an Ara Ara One-san that will comfort you during your quarantine. Okay, she has a unique skill that shields Vanguard fleet from taking damage by a solid portion of Illustrious's HP, and basically during this time, your Vanguards can't die. So it's more useful in PvP, but it's also pretty cool in PvE too, in case your Vanguard fleet is taking so much damage that they need some kind of assistance. And she also has a very nice wedding skin. So next up in Tier 1 is Shouhou Retrofit. She is usually a blue, but is upgraded to purple due to her retrofit. I classify her as a budget unicorn. She's another aircraft carrier that serves the same exact purpose as unicorn, but you need your retrofit in order to make her on par with unicorn. And overall, unicorn is still better because unicorn has access to fighter airplanes that help deal with other aircraft carriers and aircrafts so that your backline doesn't take too much damage. On the other hand, Shouhou does not have any fighters. She has an extra dive bomber instead. Now, the one kind of minor difference between Unicorn and Shouhou is that instead of the extra reload that Unicorn gives to Vanguard, Shouhou has a different skill that increases the damage of the carriers in the fleet after she sends an airstrike. Next up is Queen Elizabeth. She is a battleship, and she is the royal queen of the HMS fleet. So, being the queen, she has to go and support her whole country, and she gives massive buffs to her fleet. When I talk massive, I mean humongous buffs. She gives 15% extra firepower, 15% extra torpedo, 15% extra air power, anti-air, reload, and evasion of all of the Royal Navy ships by 15%, as I just said. So that's a lot of stuff. So, since the buff is so good, she doesn't have any special barrages or any other cool sources of damage. So she makes a great support, but she doesn't really contribute much to herself. She's fine, but personally, I would not recommend building her because it takes so many resources and you need to level up her skill all the way to level 10 so that you get that full 15% extra buff. But it's much better, in my opinion, to go and devote your resources towards another more damaging Tier 1 or Tier 0 battleship. That sounds like a much better idea to me, because then that would make you progress a lot faster than only getting a personal buff ship to only the HMS fleet. But if you do like her, then I would recommend you build her, because this is a waifu collector game. Anyway, another favorite of mine on this list is Aurora. She is a light cruiser, and she is a PvP god. Why is she a PvP god, you might ask? Well, she increases her own damage to destroyers, torpedo boats, suicide boats, and transport vessels by 10%, which is pretty good, but then her second skill, which is more important, she decreases the evasion of light cruisers and destroyers by 20%. That is an extremely useful skill in PvP and PvE, because as content gets harder, evasion of those ships will increase drastically, and sometimes your battleships and your cruisers will miss their deadly artillery and airstrikes. When you miss those things, you miss out on a ton of damage, so if you bring Aurora, you can go and negate this kind of debuff by just completely annihilating them by lowering their evasion. I would definitely recommend building her and leveling her. You can also find her in the permanent gacha the same way as Helena and Unicorn. She is dropped on some stages, I think, and she is also found in the metal shop sometimes. Now, Eldridge is the last one in Tier 1. She is a destroyer, and she is one of the PvP exclusive rewards that you can exchange in the PvP shop for 20,000 merit points. Now, she has a very, very cool looking EX barrage. If you haven't seen it already, you should definitely look up a video of it. She shoots out purple fireballs that like engulf the entire screen, and it looks awesome. Now, those purple fireballs don't really do too much damage. She's more known for her special skill that has a small chance of activating. Basically, it allows the Vanguard to evade all incoming damage for 10 whole seconds. That means that they will not take any damage for 10 seconds, meaning that it drastically increases the survivability of your Vanguard fleet. She has a massive synergy with the other tier 1 in this list, Illustrious, because Illustrious, when she activates her skill, will guarantee Eldridge's skill to proc, meaning that your Vanguard will be invincible for a very solid amount of time. Now, any other notable mentions on this list? In Tier 2, we have Arizona. She is a battleship that is another healer, but the problem is, being a battleship archetype, she has an extremely high oil cost compared to the other carriers that do the same exact thing, such as Unicorn and Shouhou. So I would personally definitely recommend you'd get Unicorn and Shouhou over Arizona due to that extremely high oil cost, because that will just let you progress faster, and I think that Unicorn and Shouhou are definitely much better suited for their job than Arizona. And finally, in Tier 4, we're skipping over Tier 3, we have Fletcher. Fletcher is very, very good for her intended role as a low-cost key component of the Fletcher fleet, which is a super low-cost fleet that centers around the big buffs that Fletcher gives to her Fletcher-class destroyers. If you want to see an in-depth video of how to go and build this type of fleet and what their strengths are and weaknesses, then definitely leave me a comment to go and tell me that. She is most notably used to go and farm lower stages like 3-4. I definitely used it for that. I spent so long farming 3-4 for Akagi and Kaga with the Fletcher fleet because they use so little oil that I could just keep replaying it over and over again. So that eventually I got tons of Akagis and Kagas, and that was all because of my Fletcher fleet. Now that's about to go all for this episode of Azur Lane Tier List Explained. As always, if you found my content helpful and you want to see more guides, feel free to like and subscribe. It really motivates me greatly to keep publishing more content. If you have any questions about a ship that was not covered, or if you would like more detail, feel free to leave a comment. I will always do my best to respond. The next class of ships to be reviewed is the heavy cruisers, so expect a video in the near future. Until then, stay safe and keep on playing those anime games. See you guys.